He pulled up to the checkpoint with confidence. "Put it in park, please. What are you bringing from Mexico?" "Nothing," he replied. No hesitation, no sweat. Just another traveler with nothing to declare. But not everyone would be that smooth. Another vehicle approached. The officer leaned in. "Where are you going today? What did you do in Mexico? When was the last time you crossed the border?" The driver dodged every question. Nervous, defensive. He claimed he was busy. He questioned why his father's name even mattered. But it wasn't about family history. It was about patterns. And his didn't check out. He said the trunk had dirty clothes, but it was empty. Suspicion rising, the officer referred him for secondary inspection. And that's where things got interesting. This vehicle had thick, even mud underneath. Too perfect. Inexperienced smugglers try to mimic real road dust, hoping fake grime might hide hidden compartments. Under the hood, he didn't even know how to open it. He claimed he bought the car less than a month ago. No confidence. No clarity. It screamed. Borrowed or planted vehicle. A 7-point inspection was underway. Then the officer noticed something on the suspect's waistband. During a routine pat-down, the truth was revealed. A weapon, but not just any weapon. A ghost gun, custom-built, unregistered, and deadly. No serial number, no paper trail. The kind criminals love. Had he followed the law, declared it, registered it, things might have been different. But now, the weapon would be seized and possibly destroyed. Because next time, it might be loaded. Meanwhile, off the mainland, another smuggling corridor stirred to life. Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, and a magnet for maritime smugglers. Air and marine operations launched their patrols. The mission? Intercept drugs, contraband, and human cargo before it reached American shores. Boats scanned the waters. Planes watched the skies. Helicopters hovered above the horizon. Most of the contraband, cocaine. Routes stretched from St. Thomas, St. Croix, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, and even St. Martin. Dozens of possible entry points. One mission: stop them all. Day or night. The smugglers didn't care. One oxygen tank. Innocent on the surface, but dive tanks have been used before to hide everything from pills to powder. Officers checked closely. This time, all clear. But not everyone would get through, so as back on the mainland, in Laredo, Texas, a storm was brewing in the cargo lanes. Thousands of commercial trucks rolled in from Mexico. Auto parts, produce, vegetables, but not all of them were clean. One shipment raised eyebrows. Baby shoes, at first glance, harmless. But these weren't just imports. They were poison. Lead contamination, 600 parts per million, well above the safety limit of 90. Toys meant for toddlers were ticking time bombs. Paint with dangerous chemicals, designed to make colors more vibrant and long-lasting, but at the cost of children's health. Some shipments were dolls, counterfeit, toxic, and lethal. Eyebrows, lips, cheeks, every painted part tested positive. They'd all be destroyed. Every truck stop today meant fewer children exposed tomorrow. And in that moment, the officers knew. They weren't just catching smugglers. They were saving lives. The Caribbean waters were calm, but beneath the surface, danger was drifting. Agents in Puerto Rico received a call. A vessel had been spotted, heading south toward a known smuggling path. Their patrol boats sprang into motion. Radar acquired the target. Lights off, silent, invisible to the untrained eye. But these officers were trained for the unseen. They scanned the black horizon. There. Do you see it? Faint glimmers. Just enough. Sirens pierced the night. The chase was on. Smugglers often tried to outrun detection, cutting their lights, swerving off radar. But this time, the officers were faster. A boarding team moved in. What they found would be revealed in moments. Meanwhile, back in Laredo, another kind of cargo was drawing attention. It wasn't guns. It wasn't drugs. It was dolls. Counterfeit, bright-colored children's toys stained with lead paint. Shipment after shipment tested positive, not just slightly over the limit. Some had 6 times the allowable level. Eyebrows, lips, hair paint, toxic, dangerous. Illegal. The dolls looked playful. But inside, poison, and these weren't one-off shipments. They were coming daily, hidden among UPS freight in small bundles, designed to avoid detection by hiding in plain sight. Officers worked fast. Every item scanned, every detail checked, every toy packed up for seizure and destruction. Their job was just about catching criminals. It was about protecting kids who would never know how close they came to danger. Then came another alert. A vessel was tracked, cutting across restricted zones, moving fast. The lights were off again. Radar locked on. Officers moved in. No voices. Just movement. Then silence. From the deck to the hull, everything was scanned. Their mission: locate the cargo, or the deception. Back at the checkpoint, the pattern continued. More drivers, more questioning. Some cooperative, some too confident. One man was pulled over. His car looked typical, but the officers noticed the frame. Too clean. To even like it had been faked. He said he just bought the car, but couldn't open the hood, couldn't answer basic questions. A 7-point inspection followed, and in his waistband a gun. But this wasn't it was a ghost gun, custom built. No serial, no paper trail. The kind of weapon built for silence and damage. It would be seized, marked, destroyed, because they'd seen what happened when such weapons made it past the border. Back in Puerto Rico, the air was humid. The night was still. Another boat, another silent smuggler. This time, the load would be heavier. This time, the risk greater. The team prepared for boarding. In these waters, every hour counts. Because while the border has fences, the ocean does not. The ocean may be vast, but smugglers are predictable. Patrol boats closed in as another vessel appeared off the coast of Yemen. Officers on board checked their radar, fast-moving, erratic, no lights. Classic smuggler profile. One agent confirmed they turned off the lights. Moments later, a glimmer, just enough for visual lock. Sirens activated. The chase began. The vessel tried to flee, but it was too late. Back on land, in Laredo's cargo zone, a different kind of threat was unfolding. This time, it wasn't smuggling. It was safety violations masquerading as commerce. Dolls, baby shoes, toys, each one colorful, each one lethal. An XRF analyzer confirmed the truthfully levels 5 to 6 times over the federal safety limit. The eyebrow paint, toxic. The white plastic, poison. These weren't isolated shipments. They were coming in waves, one crate at a time, perfectly sized to fly under the radar. But today, they were caught. And every item that tested positive would be destroyed. Agents knew. Every doll they pulled off the market was a child they kept safe. It wasn't just enforcement, it was prevention. Then came a vessel moving fast toward Puerto Rico's territorial boundary. Surveillance picked up erratic motion. Silence. It was a pattern they knew too well. The smugglers thought darkness would shield them. They were wrong. As the team intercepted, radar locked in. Speed increased. They were closing in. And every officer on board knew what they'd find next could be a life-or-death situation. Because sometimes, the packages don't float. They're taped, hidden, submerged. And if they miss it, that poison reaches American soil. A faint shadow moved on. Radar. No lights, no sound. Just a blip on a dark ocean. The smuggling vessel tried to vanish into the waves. But the agents of air and marine operations weren't guessing. They were trained for this. Every nautical mile, every radar echo it, all pointed to one thing. A drop or delivery in progress. Then, the lights flickered on. They had been spotted. Sirens cut through the wind as agents launched their intercept. The sea, quiet only moments ago, erupted into a high-speed pursuit. Smugglers didn't always fight. Sometimes, they ran. Other times, they hid behind silence, hoping to outlast the patrols. But not today. Meanwhile, in another cargo facility, a new red flag appeared. Inspectors had eyes on dense shipments. At first glance, it was all food, breads, tamales, spices. But the weight was wrong. One bin stood out. They opened it carefully. Layers of tamales stacked neatly, but underneath a different texture, a different density. Contraband, hidden in plain sight, inside large Tupperware containers. What looked like a home-cooked meal was heroin. Test kits confirmed it instantly. The color change left. No doubt this was a narcotic load. Rough estimate, 4 to 5 pounds, possibly more. Officers knew better than to trust surface-level smuggling. They'd seen this before. Mixed loads, layered with multiple substances. Heroin wrapped inside food, cocaine sealed in foil. Each inspection had to be full. Then came something darker. Fentanyl mixed with heroin. At 7% purity, potent, deadly, unforgiving. It changed the stakes completely. Because every time they open one of these bins, they never know if it's food or death. The air was thick, tense, the clock was ticking. Inside the hospital, a woman waited. Not for surgery, not for healing, but for extraction of a deadly secret she smuggled inside her. Cocaine, hidden in balloons, concealed in her body, and one was still inside. Doctors prepped the scan. Agents stood by. Everyone knew the danger. If even one balloon ruptured, she could die before anyone reached her. And this wasn't her first time. She'd admitted to doing it before. Silent trips, dangerous trips. But this one almost ended her life. Across town, another team moved in, an arrest warrant in hand. The suspect, an airport worker, not just an employee but a vital link in a drug chain. He had been caught on camera, talking to Jamaica, searching for a purple-banded bag, 3.5 kilos of cocaine hidden inside. He missed it, but the phone call gave him away. Now, agents surrounded his block. Ozone Park, Queens, New York. They knew the deli, they knew the time, and they knew they had to move fast. Because in a city like this, the streets talk. 1 minute too long, and the whole block would know. The man stepped outside. Wrong time, wrong place. Agents closed in, he was caught. No resistance, no chase. Just another piece in a much bigger puzzle. And the puzzle was global. Because for every shipment they stopped in Puerto Rico, another tried to slip through in New York. For every woman caught at JFK, another man waited at the border. Each arrest, each seizure, each interception, it wasn't the end. it was only the beginning. The room was cold, sterile, silent. In the seizure lab, agents processed the latest catch-wrapped bundles, tested, tagged, and stored. But this time, the tests showed something new. Not just heroin, fentanyl. Enough to make every gram more lethal than before. The Gemini spectrometer confirmed it, no doubt. A deadly mix had entered the system, one that could kill, and the team recalculated everything. This wasn't a few $100,000 worth of heroin anymore. This was $800,000 in pure risk. Someone, somewhere, would be furious. But the mission was bigger than the money. It was about cutting the chain, stopping the next overdose, saving a life before it's even at risk. Then came confirmation. The woman, yes, the one from the airport had passed. The final scan, the last balloon of cocaine had been removed. She was stable, no internal damage. But she wouldn't walk away free. She admitted this wasn't her first run. She'd smuggled before, multiple times. This time, she got caught. And this time, she'd go through the system. The agents escorted her back to Terminal 4, into HSI custody. She wasn't just another passenger anymore. She was part of an investigation. And for the officers watching her walk away, there was no pride. Just quiet satisfaction. Another risk taken off the street. In another wing of the airport, the team ran another seizure. New intel, a new address. This time in known for violence, known for silence. A city that didn't fear law enforcement. 10 rarely cooperated, but they had a name, a target, and a photo. The man was inside a local cafe, surrounded, watched, and when the time came, taken down without a word. He never saw it coming, because justice moves quietly. Until it doesn't. Back in the lab, officers began the careful work of confirmation. One by one, each bundle was tested, sealed, and documented. The Gemini machine verified everything. But the results told a darker story than before. Heroin, yes, but mixed fentanyl. This wasn't accidental contamination. It was deliberate, designed for potency, designed for death. Each package was now part of something far more dangerous, something intended to stretch the profit-on risk beyond anything street-level users could predict. Officers adjusted the count, retagged the bundles, because now, what they had wasn't just heroin, it was poison in disguise. Meanwhile, the suspect in custody stayed quiet, but the evidence didn't. There were texts, phone logs, surveillance, footage, all tying him to previous shipments, and each one added weight to the case. Outside, the team packed up for the next call. Another lead, another risk, because the work doesn't stop. Not when hundreds of kilos are still making their way through ports, warehouses, and roadways. And in another corridor of the airport, agents finalized the paperwork for the woman who smuggled inside her body. She would now enter the system, prosecuted, processed, and hopefully changed. But the agents didn't wait for change. They pushed forward, because stopping one courier didn't stop the flow. It just slowed it down. For a day, maybe 2. But that was one more day a life might be spared. And that, to them, was enough. At the final checkpoint, there were no loud alarms, no shouts. Just quiet efficiency. Agents processed the last of the paperwork, closing out a case that stretched from the Caribbean to Queens, from roadside seizures to airport busts. The woman who once cried in the interview room now sat in silence. No longer a traveler, no longer a courier. Now, a federal detainee. She had admitted it all, how she was recruited, what she carried, and the promise of easy money. But now, there was no more promise, only consequence. At Terminal 4, agents handed her over to Homeland Security investigations. It was the end of her journey in, the beginning of her legal one. Nearby, a second arrest was logged. A former airport employee turned insider for a drug network. Surveillance footage, call records, and now an interview. He knew the risk. He took it anyway. And now, the network he supported had one less helping hand inside the airport. But the day wasn't over. On the inspection floor, officers received a new alert. Incoming shipments of toys, paints, and children's products. Innocent on the surface, dangerous underneath. Lead levels far beyond safety limits. Dolls coated in toxic paint. Eyebrows painted with chemicals illegal in U.S. markets. It wasn't drugs, but it was still poison. And someone tried to send it to American homes. So the agents acted, seized it, logged it, and prepared it for destruction. Because at the end of the day, smuggling isn't just about narcotics. It's about deception. It's about profit at the expense of safety. And every time they catch it on land, in water, or in disguise, they don't celebrate. They reset and prepare for the next round. Night had fallen, but the mission hadn't ended. In the shipping warehouse, agents tore open boxers tape by tape, layer by layer. Beneath colorful packaging and innocent labels, they found the truth. Inside Damali containers were drugs, disguised in plastic, wrapped tight, pressed into what looked like homemade food. Enough to fool a glance, enough to slip by without suspicion. But not this time. Testing kits confirmed it. A beige powder, heroin, and not just heroin. The chemical traces revealed fentanyl, a gondolier, more potent, and deliberately cut into the batch. 4 maybe 5 pounds in this shipment alone. A small number until you factor in the death it could spread. As agents worked a scene, packaging each piece, they discussed their next step, more tests, deeper analysis, and eventually a handoff to HSI, because stopping one box doesn't stop the flow, but it starts the trail. And with every shipment caught, there's a chance to trace it back to the sender, the packer, the source. Meanwhile, across the city, the passenger who had nearly died during her smuggling attempt was recovering, stable, silent, but the case wasn't closed. Not for the agents, not for the prosecutors, and certainly not for the networks trying to replace her. For every arrest made, another recruit is ready. For every package stopped, another is being sealed. And for every night's success, there's a dawn that begins it all again. Because smuggling never sleeps, but neither do those chasing it. It ended where it began, in the same terminals, the same checkpoints, the same shipping lanes where smugglers had once believed they were invisible. The final pieces fell into place. The passenger was cleared medically, no damage, no complications. But the balloon of cocaine removed from her body was evidence undeniable and damning. Back at the airport, she was brought into custody. Paperwork finalized. Her story now, part of a file. Her future part of a case. She wasn't a stranger to this life. She'd smuggled before, quietly. This time, luck ran out. The agents knew it well. For them, the job wasn't about catching every smuggler. It was about making it harder, slower, riskier, and they had done that. In a warehouse nearby, more toxic dolls were pulled from shipping crates, eyebrows painted with lead, plastic brittle with illegal chemicals, all of it destined for children if not for the sharp eyes of enforcement. They stopped it all, seized it, tagged it for destruction. Because poison doesn't always come wrapped in powder. Sometimes, it smiles through painted toys and colorful wrappers. Back at headquarters, agents debriefed. 2 major arrests, multiple seizures, hundreds of thousands in street value taken off the map. But nobody celebrated. They packed up, refocused, and turned to the next name. The next shipment, the next whisper on the wire. Because for every smuggler caught, a Noah prepares. And for every story told, a new one begins. But as long as the drugs keep moving, so will they.